There is direct evidence, I think, of deception. And that's where we begin the investigation.
It doesn't sound like you have evidence.
Oh, that's not true at all.
Well, I think it's hard to reach any other conclusion but that this is evidence of interference and obstruction.
Do you have any information to back that up? You have said that there's circumstantial evidence of this connection, but then you said you can't talk about it. Isn't that just what you're complaining about with the chairman of the committee? That he says there are things but isn't showing the evidence?
We have received additional evidence and new materials have been made available to the committee.
Government, I think it's really irresponsible for you to say you know that the Putin government did this.
You know what is irresponsible, Tucker, for you to make that claim without looking at the evidence? I'm not going to be specific as to...
Oh, because you don't know it, that's why. All right, done.
Well, I think there is evidence. I can't go into the particulars of our closed investigation.
To point to that assessment and say there's no evidence in that assessment of collusion, well, yes, that assessment didn't cover that issue. I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now, so while I can't go into the classified information, I have every confidence that the Russians used WikiLeaks collusions of the intelligence.
You have every confidence but no evidence, is that right?
No, I can't share the evidence with you.
Yeah.
Congressman?
Well, but I'm not prepared to say that there's proof you could take to a jury.
Over the coming days, you will hear remarkably consistent evidence of President Trump's corrupt scheme and cover-up. When you focus on the evidence uncovered during the investigation, you will appreciate there is no serious dispute about the facts underlying the president's conduct. Announced an investigation into the false claim that Vice President Biden wanted the corrupt prosecutor removed from power in order to stop an investigation into Burisma Holdings.
And I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money.
Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution, so if you could look into it, it sounds horrible to me. A company on whose board Biden's son, Hunter, sat. This allegation is simply untrue.
Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And
it has been widely debunked by Ukrainian and American experts alike. That reality mattered not to President Trump. To him, the value in promoting a negative tale about former Vice President Biden, true or false, was its usefulness to his re-election campaign. It was a smear tactic against a political opponent that President Trump apparently feared. Remarkably, but predictably, Russia too has sought to support this effort to smear Mr. Biden, reportedly hacking into the Ukrainian energy company at the center of the president's disinformation campaign only last week. Russia almost certainly was looking for information related to the former vice president's son so that the Kremlin could also weaponize it against Mr. Biden, just like it did against Hillary Clinton in 2016 when Russia hacked and released emails from her presidential campaign. And President Trump has made it abundantly clear that he would like nothing more than to make use of such dirt against Mr. Biden, just as he made use of Secretary Clinton's hacked and released emails in his previous presidential campaign. Which brings us to the other sham investigation that President Trump demanded that the Ukrainian leader announce. This investigation was related to a debunked conspiracy theory alleging that Ukraine, not Russia, interfered in the 2016 presidential election. This narrative, propagated by the Russian intelligence services, contends that Ukraine sought to help Hillary Clinton and harm then-candidate Trump. This tale is also patently false, and remarkably, it is precisely the inverse of what the U.S. intelligence community's unanimous assessment was, that Russia interfered in the 2016 election in sweeping and systemic fashion in order to hurt Hillary Clinton and help Donald Trump. Most critically, the military aid that we provide Ukraine helps to protect and advance American national security interests in the region and beyond. America has an abiding interest in stemming Russian expansionism and resisting any nation's efforts to remake the map of Europe by dint of military force, even as we have tens of thousands of troops stationed there. Moreover, as one witness put it during our impeachment inquiry, the United States aids Ukraine and her people so that we can fight Russia over there and we don't have to fight Russia here. Trump used the same unrivaled authority at his disposal as Commander-in-Chief to cover up his wrongdoing. In unprecedented fashion, the President ordered the entire executive branch of the United States of America to categorically refuse and completely obstruct the House's impeachment investigation. Such a wholesale obstruction of congressional impeachment has never before occurred in our democracy. You will hear and read testimony from courageous public servants who upheld their oath to the Constitution and their legal obligations to comply with congressional action despite a categorical order by President Trump not to cooperate with the impeachment inquiry. But more than that, you will hear from witnesses who have not yet testified, like John Bolton and Mick Mulvaney.
In those 55 days that aid is delayed, you met with President Zelensky 3 times. Then, of course, the third meeting is September 5th. President Zelensky meets with you and Senators Johnson and Murphy. And once again, there was no linkage of security assistance dollars to an investigation of Burisma or the Bidens. 3 meetings with the president of Ukraine, the new president, and no linkage. That's accurate?
Mr. Jordan, it's certainly accurate on the first 2. There was discussion of the security assistance, but
no linkage.
But there was not discussion of linkage.
President Zelensky didn't announce he was going to investigate Burisma or the Bidens. He didn't do a press conference and say, I'm going to investigate the Bidens, we're going to investigate Burisma. He didn't tweet about it, and you just told the ranking member he didn't do the CNN interview and announce he's going to investigate Burisma or the Bidens. So what I'm wondering is, where did you get this clear understanding?
As I testified, Mr. Jordan, this came from Ambassador Sondland.
Point number 2, second sentence. Ambassador Taylor recalls that Mr. Morrison told Ambassador Taylor that I told Mr. Morrison that I conveyed this message to Mr. Yarmak on September 1st, 2019 in connection with Vice President Pence's visit to Warsaw and a meeting with President Zelensky. Now, this is his clarification. This is what I can't believe, and you're their star witness. You're their first witness.
Mr.
You're
Jordan,
the guy. You're the guy based on this.
The President put his own interests above the national interest. President Trump undermined the integrity of our free and fair elections by pressing a foreign power to influence our most sacred right as citizens, our right to freely choose our leaders. And he threatened our national security by withholding critical aid from a partner on the front lines of war with Russia, an aggressor that has threatened peace and stability on an entire continent. In so doing, the President sacrificed not only the security of our European allies, but also our nation's core national security interests. These funds that the President withheld, these funds, they don't just benefit Ukraine, they benefit the security of the United States. By ensuring that Ukraine is equipped to defend its own borders against Russian aggression. The United States provides Ukraine with radar and weapons and sniper rifles, communication that save lives. It makes Ukrainians more effective. It might even shorten the war. That's what our hope is, to show the Ukrainians can defend themselves. And the Russians, in the end, will say, okay, we're going to stop. That's in our interest. This isn't just about Ukraine or its national security. It's about our national security. This isn't charity. It's about our defense as much as Ukraine's. Ambassador Taylor also said that the American aid was a concrete demonstration of the United States' commitment to resist aggression and to defend freedom. That's what this country is supposed to be about, right? resisting aggression, defending freedom, not exporting corrupt ideas. Russia is not a threat, I don't need to tell you, to Eastern Europe alone. Ukraine has become the de facto proving ground for just the types of hybrid warfare that the 21st century will become defined by: cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, efforts to undermine the legitimacy of state institutions, whether that is voting systems or financial markets. The Kremlin showed boldly in 2016 that with the malign skills it honed in Ukraine, they would not stay in Ukraine. Instead, Russia employed them here to attack our institutions, and they will do so again. Indeed, they've never stopped. Will we allow the primary country now fighting Russia to be weakened, placing our troops in Europe at greater risk and opening the door to greater interference in our affairs at home? If we allow the President of the United States to pursue his political and personal interests rather than the national interest, we send a message to our European allies that our commitment to a Europe free and whole is for sale to the highest bidder. President Trump solicited foreign interference in our democratic elections, abusing the power of his office to seek help from abroad to improve his re-election prospects at home. To implement this corrupt scheme, President Trump pressured the President of Ukraine to publicly announce investigations into two discredited allegations that would benefit President Trump's 2020 presidential campaign.
So 3 face-to-face meetings, it doesn't come up, no linkage whatsoever. President Zelensky doesn't announce it before the aid is released on the 11th.
President Trump withheld hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid to a strategic partner at war with Russia to secure foreign help with his re-election. In other words, to cheat. For the very next day, he's on the phone soliciting foreign interference again. President Trump's effort to use an official head of state phone call to solicit the announcement of investigations helpful to his re-election is not only conduct unbecoming a president, but it is conduct of one who believes that the powers of his high office are political tools to be wielded against his opponents, including by asking a foreign government to investigate a United States citizen and for a corrupt purpose.
It is illegal, improper, a violation of oath, a violation of his duty to defend our elections and our Constitution for the President to merely ask for foreign interference in our election. That is enough that the President said, I want you to do us a favor, and though, he added.
And she got compromising materials on Trump after their short relations.
Okay, and what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
Okay. So you have recordings of both Sobchak and Buseva where they're discussing the compromising material on Mr. Trump?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, obviously we would welcome a chance to get copies of those recordings. So we will try to work with the FBI to figure out, along with your staff, how we can obtain copies of those. These materials to both our committee and to the FBI. And so we'll make arrangements between my staff and yours on how to facilitate that.
So we don't have to show a quid pro quo, although this conversation comes awfully close. And their president are not stupid, and neither are the American people. And they can see and understand and appreciate a shakedown when they see it going on, and that's exactly what this was.
That alone is grounds for removal from office of the 45th president. But these 3 days in July were neither the beginning nor the end of this scheme. President Trump, acting through agents inside and outside of the U.S. government, including his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, sought to compel Ukraine to announce the investigations by withholding the head of state meeting in the Oval Office until the president of Ukraine complied.
So, you really have no testimony today that ties President Trump to a scheme to withhold aid from Ukraine in exchange for these investigations.
other than my own presumption. I never said the President of the United States should be impeached.
Nope, but you did. You have left people with the confusing impression that you were giving testimony that you did not.